Do you have a favorite artist?
I have so many favorite artists. You want me to name some? I mean, I love looking at art. I love being in spaces where there's art. I love being in spaces where there is art that holds me, that compels me to be in that space. It doesn't allow me just to walk away. It doesn't allow me just to read the title and then go on to the next work. So, with that as a kind of preface, I think, okay, well, what work does that? I mean, there's lots. And I suppose this goes back to the question that people often put to me, that is, David, how is it that you spent so much time in arts education, particularly at Wits? I started at Wits in 1996. It's a long time ago.
So just after kids.
Yeah.
Sure, that's nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. You're right.
Sure.
I think one of the reasons why is because I work with what I think are quite astonishing colleagues, all of them practicing artists, and also students. You know, it is remarkable to see what students do from first year through to PhD, and then to see that what they do in the world after that. You know, of course, not all artists, not all students that do a BA Fine Art degree go on to become practicing artists. There are many other spaces that they fill in the world, in the cultural industries at large. But it excites me. You know. A student who I think graduated, who finished around about 2010. He's one of many who are doing fantastic things in the international art world. He's got an exhibition. He's had a recent exhibition in New York, but he's going to have an exhibition at the Wits Art Museum later this year. His name is Serge Nitageka. So I would say he's one of my favorite artists at the moment. But there are dozens, hundreds. There's a fantastic artist, Felix Gonzalez Torres, who makes these really beautiful, I mean, to call them installations, doesn't do the work justice, but I remember seeing a remarkable exhibition of his in London at the Serpentine Gallery. It's these very, very moving experiences. I've been fortunate that I've travelled to a number of different countries, and wherever I go, I look at work. It's always extraordinary seeing work created centuries ago, different cultures. And I remember seeing Picasso's Guernica in Spain. I remember studying it at school, at university. I remember writing about it. I can remember doing a project, thinking about how it could be used in the classroom.
Forgive me for this question, but what is it about Picasso that made his work so famous? Because my OCD starts twerking when I Achilles' work. What are the elements that, what do you think it was about his work?
I think that he started to make some really bold decisions about what art could be. And that's what I really
just the authenticity of that, yeah.
And there've been lots of criticism of Picasso as a person. But I think visiting the Picasso Museum in
Barcelona.
Yeah, Barcelona.
I think I've been there.
And I knew a lot about Picasso before I went there. Having studied his work at school and at university. I've always been interested in his work. I've been interested in the different phases of his output. And there was a time when I was just completely, I suppose it was kind of fascination with his Cubist work. But going back to the visit to the museum, one of the striking things, and I knew this, but it became so apparent in the museum, is that at a very young age, he could draw and paint in let's call it a naturalistic way. If he was sitting here looking at the furniture there and the objects on that counter, he would be able to render them in a way that was extremely naturalistic. And he was able to do that at a very, very young age. And it's almost like he was saying, I want more from this thing called art. I think it can do more. I think he was present in that early 20th century where there were so many kind of energized, dynamic ideas present. Now I'm talking about a city like Paris, but thinking about other cities across the world, and people were grappling with new ideas, new possibilities. There were many different things that were accessible to artists in terms of influences and ways of informing one's practice. Science and the arts, belief systems. But going back again to the museum helps you kind of chart that progression, the career. And there's one very special room that I think about often in that museum. And it was a room dedicated, or certainly when I visited, dedicated to Picasso's exploration of another famous artist's work. And Picasso was great at this. He's looking back in art history at some of the great painters and reinterpreting their work. And there's this room that was dedicated to Picasso's exploration of another Spanish painter's work, painters Velázquez, and in particular the painting Las Meninas, which is often considered to be one of the most important paintings in that Western canon of art history. In a very, very beautiful painting in the Baroque style. And Picasso interprets it in his own way. So it's very, very different. And Picasso draws on all his his prior experience in working through all those Cubist phases, his knowledge of other modernist movements in that Western canon like Surrealism, and he creates his own version. But what struck me in this room is how he produces dozens and dozens of these small paintings, exercises, very quick, even quite crude paintings. But it's this sense of like this visual research.
Layering almost.
Yeah. Visual research towards his version of another artist's work. It's just for me, an extraordinary example of the kind of creative drive that was present in Picasso as an artist, present in other artists as well. And going back to your question, what is it about Picasso? For me, it's that ongoing searching. It's this curiosity that is just alive all the time. It's this,
and not afraid.
Exactly. And it's almost like I think many artists are doing this, asking the what if question. What if I do this? What if I do it differently? And I think that's so present in Picasso's painting, but also in sculpture, his printmaking, just this kind of sense of aliveness. And going back to your question, who's your favourite artist? I think very many of the artists that I might mention, they would share similar attributes, qualities, a kind of sense of producing something that is alive, that makes me want to experience the world in a different way. It makes me want to think about the world in a different way. That stops me and asks me to consider who I am in a